Before we start, a small spoiler alert. In this MediaNerd essay I'm going to talk about the new HBO series Westworld. I won't go beyond episode 1, I promise, but I'll talk and clarify a lot about the details from that first episode. If you really want to start the show all fresh and without any pre-knowledge, I advise you to stop the video. Let's start at the beginning. After a successful series of books, writer Michael Crichton made his first step towards the silver screen. Crichton's directorial debut was a movie of the same name where HBO's Westworld is based upon. The writer has always been fascinated by technology, science and how the human brain works. Just to give an example, he is the creator and writer of Jurassic Park. The book was originally released in 1990, which was 17 years after Westworld, and in 1993, director Steven Spielberg turned the book into the successful movie everyone knows.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
The reason I mentioned Jurassic Park in this story is not entirely a coincidence. Both stories are in many ways similar. Just like in Jurassic Park, Westworld is a lifelike amusement park where people can escape from their daily loops and be somewhere and someone else during their visit. Delos is a company that grosses in this kind of entertainment. They've created a large park which holds 3 areas: Westworld, Medieval World and Roman World. Each in their own time period in history and mimicking the location on Earth. To give the visitors the feeling the worlds are alive, robots or hosts were designed, who inhabit the world and where you can embark with them on an adventure. The hosts are designed to be as lifelike as possible, to give you the ultimate experience during your stay in the park. That's the foundation of Westworld Crichton drew in 1973.
Why don't you make arrangements to take our hovercraft to Medieval World, Roman World, and Westworld? Was it worth $1,000 a day? Contact us today, or see your travel agent. Boy, have we got a vacation for you.
Not watching the classic isn't going to set you back on knowledge if you want to understand the current interpretation. But to get into the vibe of the subject and the philosophy behind the concept, it's definitely a recommendation. If only to see master actor Yul Brynner in a leading role once more. So now you know the story behind Westworld. Time to travel back to current times. Westworld anno 2016. The HBO version also has quite a history itself. The first consideration to give the concept a reboot was way back in 1990 by Warner Bros. Finally, after studio executive Jessica Goodman left in 2011, the idea surfaced again and was shaped into a format. HBO was the network that wanted to take on the adventure, as they were looking for the next big True Detective or Game of Thrones. A pilot episode was issued and was completed in 2013. Memento and Inception writer Jonathan Nolan, brother of Christopher Nolan, wrote the script together with wife Lisa Joy, and Jonathan even helmed the pilot as director. To reinforce the production even more, movie and show heavyweights J.J. Abrams and Brian Burke were brought on. They are the brains behind extremely popular shows like Lost and movies like Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens. After the pilot was well received at Warner Bros. And HBO, a full first season was ordered. The first episode of the season is the pilot episode named The Original and aired for the first time on October 2nd, 2016. Initial plans revealed that the first season would air in 2015, but because Jonathan, Joy and JJ wanted to get the best out of the show, shooting was delayed mid-season for a few months so they could work on a storyline which extended more than one season. Recent news revealed that the captains of Westworld already conceived storylines for at least 5 seasons, including a spectacular series finale. In the first episode of the show, or The Original, we meet Westworld. The intriguing opener grabs you from the start and drags you into the world of Westworld. Then we hear the dark and soothing voice of actor Jeffrey Wright.
Bring her back online. Can you hear me?
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling quite myself.
You can lose the accent. Do you know where you are?
I'm in a dream.
We meet Dolores, a host who lives in Westworld. At first glance she looks like a typical farmer's daughter. A world of unspoiled nature, serenity and beautiful landscapes that go to the horizon and beyond. Actress Evan Rachel Wood powerfully portrays Dolores in the world of cowboys, bandits and Wild West violence. James Marsden convincingly plays her love interest Teddy Flute, and together they seem like they can conquer the world. As they return to the ranch, it becomes painfully clear that this world has not been made for its inhabitants, but for the entertainment of the heavy-paying guests.
Feels good to be back. Let's celebrate.
Something that immediately sticks out in the first episode is the casting, which is so high standard and full of headliners from the acting community that many Hollywood directors would kill to have such a high number of world-class actors on the credit roll. In the leads we see the beautiful Evan Rachel Wood as Dolores Abernathy, James Marsden as the confident Teddy Flute, Tandy Newton will flourish as Madame Maeve Millay, Jeffrey Wright as the calculated behavior specialist Bernard Lowe, acting heavyweight Ed Harris as the implacable Man in Black, and, for the first time in a television role, Nestor and master actor Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Robert Ford, one of the founders of Westworld. A few actors mentioned that the show is the Olympics of acting, which I completely agree with. A perfect example is the scene with Lewis Hertham as Peter Abernathy. In a time span of 3 minutes he displays a full spectrum of emotions, fully nude and in a cold analysis room backstage at Westworld.
Yet I know not, but they will be the terrors of the earth. You don't know where you are, do you? You're in a prison of your own sins.
Westworld goes deep, really deep. It covers the workings of the human brain in extreme detail. How and why we make choices, what drives us and how people think. They use robots to clarify it, but it makes you think deeply because in fact you see the creation of evolution right in front of your eyes. There hasn't been this much of an online discussion since Lost. Storyline-wise, how the season will progress and what the certain place of certain people will be within the Westworld universe. In the current landscape of heavily dialogue-driven drama shows, Westworld definitely is a major player and it will certainly surprise a lot of people.
Mighty kind of you.
Sweet. Not as sweet as you. I'm afraid I've got other plans tonight, Dolores. Have a pleasant evening.
After the first couple of episodes aired, two major discussions rose among some groups of viewers. The discussion about the position of women in movies and shows and the violence which seemingly is used on them, and the discussion about nudity in shows just for effect. Kind of like every Dutch movie, which should have a topless scene in there because we can. Without spoiling the show or future episodes, I can assure you that in both cases, discussions came to a halt after more and more episodes aired. All scenes where needless violence is inflicted on women, their position in society is questioned, or as it seems a lot of nudity is displayed, all have their purposes. Not to shock, but to tell the story, the philosophy and explain the world of Westworld. A kind of higher purpose.
Have you ever questioned the nature of your reality?
No.
Is anyone around you? For instance, your father.
He was scared. He wasn't thinking right.
Despite HBO having put high stakes on the show, Europe isn't quite worked up over it as the US. Probably because not a lot of people have heard about Westworld and European TV networks and entertainment shows haven't picked it up. And it's going to be a lot tougher because HBO is going to stop in certain countries, which makes it much more difficult to watch the show legally, which is a big shame. Personally, I've been watching together with the US audience right from the very first episode, so I'm kind of in the same state of enthusiasm as the viewers on the other side of the ocean. Because it gets better and better as the season progresses.
Help, please. My father's sick at home, but I can't just leave him out here in the street.
Soon this will all feel like a distant dream. Until then, may you rest in a deep and dreamless slumber.
The future of Westworld looks promising. A second season has already been ordered. You probably wouldn't even have noticed it under normal circumstances. But I think you will be impressed if I told you that the first season alone costed around $100 million. That's $10 million an episode, which is a lot even in current times. Even its big brother Game of Thrones ranks $4 million lower with $6 million an episode. And because the show holds up an extreme attention to story and details, it takes more than a year to produce one season. A new Sherlock, so to speak. We've already been waiting 2 years for them to come up with a new season, but it's with pleasure considering the show's quality. In an interview, production designer Zach Grobler has indicated that it was discussed with Jonathan, Joy and JJ whether there was a possibility to visit the other worlds from the original story, meaning Roman world, medieval world or even future world. The only thing Grobler would release is that we aren't going to visit any of these worlds in the first season. But it means a good prospect of attention value of the series in the future. Like I've mentioned before, the show already has a storyline that spans multiple years plotted out, which makes Westworld a keeper and HBO betting high on it.
Old Bill here was always a good listener. Yeah, he was the second host we ever built. Were you with us in those days, Bernard, or was that before your time?
Most were decommissioned before I was brought on, I'm afraid.
They repeated themselves. Broke down constantly. A simple handshake would give them away.
I've discovered Westworld because I watch and follow a lot of US entertainment platforms on Facebook, for example. So you're not only seeing what your country's media wants to see, but see beyond that. I'm also an extreme fan of the annual pilot season on American television. This is where you can discover new shows which otherwise you may never have looked at. Look beyond your own bubble. This is where you will find gems that take you into their fantasy world. And isn't that what we want from every movie or show? Go watch this show, even if it's only to amuse yourself with the imagination of an amusement park in full-blown Wild Western style. At the same time, you'll enhance your psychological knowledge. Besides it all, it's really a great show to watch. Westworld. Every hero has a code. That's it for my very first video essay. Soon a new one will follow, which might be about a completely different topic. This essay is also available in Dutch. Click the link above to watch it. Comment on the essay or post your ideas for a new one below, and maybe next time I'll do an essay about the subject. Want to be up to date? Click subscribe and never miss a Media Nerd video ever again. See you the next one.